Bonjour, Kinamagi and Nene Ireland and Dijnikas, and welcome to this production of the My Math Network. Today's episode from Chapter 6, Lesson 9, Estimate Quotients. This lesson, you should have packet Chapter 6, Lesson 9 available to you. It begins on page 429, or a sheet of paper in lieu of the packet where you can write down notes so that you have a resource available to you when it comes time to complete the assignment. If you need to pause the video to go find your packet, this would be a great opportunity to do such. If not, carry on with us. Welcome back to those who had to pause the video. Thank you for sticking around for those who didn't. Our essential question here in Chapter 6 is, how is multiplying and dividing decimals similar to multiplying and dividing whole numbers? Keep in mind, multiplying and dividing numbers is the same no matter if there's a decimal place or not. The skill that we are developing is, where do we put the decimal point? And we've been doing that most of this chapter with multiplication. And now we're going to start looking at the division side. Investigating the math. This part is not in your text, so please just follow along visually. How can you replace numbers so they are easier to compute mentally? This is not specific to division. It can be applied in multiplication, adding or subtracting, because we can round or use compatible numbers. Choose a number between 5 and 10 with a decimal to the hundredths place. Estimate the quotient of your number in 2. Show your work. So I'm going to do this for you here. Between 5 and 10 with a decimal. So I'm going to put I need an annotation tool here. I'm going to put 7.54. This would round to 8 because 7 is in the ones place. The number to the right is 5 or greater, so that adds 1 to 7, so it goes to 8. And now I can divide. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So the quotient of my number in 2 is about 4. Quotient, again, is the word for an answer to a division problem. Dividend, divisor, quotient. Let me go ahead and clear this before I move on here. And they have a different one. They used 8.36. That rounds to 8. And get the same quotient. Next one, create a division story that includes a whole number and a decimal with values up to the hundredths place. Estimate the estimate of the quotient should be 4. Give an example. Science quiz team has 8.36 points. There are 2 students on the team. About how many points does each student have? And the answer is 4 points. So this one you kind of work backwards. Start with something that's going to be around 4. And then you divide, and you get add the decimal in there. It works pretty well. So let's get into page 429. Example basic. The expectation is that you will fill this in on your paper as we go. That way you have a resource when it comes time for the assignment or test prep that you can use to look back on. Sometimes we need a little reminder, and that's what this tool will be. I also advise that you always look at the helpful hints, and it says compatible numbers are numbers that are easy to compute mentally. And the difference between compatible numbers and rounding is sometimes it might not follow the exact same rule of rounding, but it's close and it's easier. So we have Miss Glover buys 2 kites for a total of $15.18. If each kite costs the same, about how much did each kite cost? Explain your why your answer is reasonable. So your first step is estimate the quotient of 15, 18, and 2. Now, the reason I say compatible numbers might not be perfect rounding, I want something that's going to be divisible by 2. So that means my ones place has to have an even number. So realistically, if I have 15, I can go down to 14 or I can go up to 16. And in this case, I'm going to choose to go up to 16 because of the fact that 15.18 is closer to 16 than 14. And you see that they have it there. So make sure you go ahead and write that in before we go on down the page to step 2. Yes, I am aware that 15.18 rounds closer to 15 than 16, but we are using compatible numbers here. Step 2, divide. And if you remember, we went with 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So 15.18 or $15.18 divided by 2 is about 8. Since 2 times 8 equals 16, and 16 is close or approximately 15.18, the answer is reasonable. So go ahead and write those numbers in. If you need an extra second to write it in, you can always go ahead and pause the video and then join us when you have it written in. Otherwise, I'm about to go up and get the clear tab, and so that we can move on. We're now going to, you see the answers here. Now we're going to go to the top of the next page, 430, and look at example niche. 3 friends went out to dinner. The total cost of their meals was $32.57. If the friends split the bill evenly, about how much will each person pay? Explain why your answer is reasonable. So we want to round 32.57 to the nearest whole because 33 and 3 are compatible numbers. So we didn't have to worry about jumping down to like 30, although that would have worked as well. But this is closer to 30. Being closer to 33 as a multiple of 3 works. So I'm going to go 33. Make sure you're writing that in this box as we go as well. So we have 33 divided by 3. 30 again would be the other nearest compatible number, but being it's 32.57, that's a lot closer to 33. So now I'm going to go ahead and there's my dividend. My divisor is 3. What's my quotient? If you think to your fact families, 3 times 11 is 33. So it's 11. So each one will pay about $11. Since 3 times 11 equals 33, and 33 is approximate to 32.57, the answer is reasonable. Go ahead and write that in. I'll give you a moment to do that before we go on to the guided practice. If you need more time, feel free to hit the pause button. Otherwise, I'm going to go up to the clear. Our guided practice. So I'll talk you through these ones. $19.50 divided by 5. When I see that this is divided by 5, that's a pretty easy number to use. I want something, I want my ones to be divisible by 5, which means I need it to end in a 5 or a 0. Well, it just so happens that 1950 is really close to 20. So I'm going to put 20 divided by 5 is 4. So let's go to the next one. I need something divisible by 25. And 47.25. If I think to 25, 50, 75. Ooh, 50 is pretty close there. divided by 25 is 2. Again, we want to make sure it's something that goes in pretty neatly. And I opted to not change the 25 because we didn't want to have to go 20 and 40. Let's go ahead and write those in before I continue on by scrolling down. If you need to pause the video before I clear the drawings, go ahead. The next slide here. They came out the same answers we did. Third one, estimate the product again. I need something that's going to go into 4 or be divisible by 4. And I look over here, 16 is divisible by 4. And if you're like, but Mr. I, 16.8 rounds up to 17. You're right. I'm going to use compatible numbers, however, because 16.8 is closer to 16 than it is to 20. And I want to use my skill set at my fact family. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So go ahead and write that in. Give it about another 5 seconds. I'm going to go up to my clear. You'll see the answer is there as well. Describe another way you could estimate an example 2. I could have gone 30 divided by 3. As I mentioned before, are both estimates reasonable? Yes, they're both pretty close. All right, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to bite off a big chunk. I want you to do numbers 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Remember to round and or use compatible numbers so that they're easier to do. So for example, number 4, I want something that'll either go, I could go something that goes evenly by 11, or I could change that to another digit. But go ahead and pause the video. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. Here's some sample answers. They did go with the 88 divided by 11 is 8. The other option would have been like 90 divided by 10. Number 5, 44.7 divided by 5. I need something that 5 goes into evenly. 45 is pretty close to that. Because remember, anytime 5 goes in anything ending in 5 or 0, 45 divided by 5 is 9. Number 6, something divided by 12, or 195.8 divided by 12. I'm going to change that 12 to a 10 because it's so much easier to divide by a power of 10. And 10, it goes evenly into 200. So that's why I changed it. It's a little easier than 190. If this had been a little smaller, like 193.8, maybe you go 190 divided by 10. Number 7, 2820 divided by 6. 6 goes evenly into 30, so I'm going to use compatible numbers there, and I get $5. 792 divided by 6. So something that goes evenly, 6 goes evenly into, and in fact, 6 is the best choice there. So 6 divided by 6 is about $1. And 88.3 divided by 9. 88.3 is pretty close to 90. 90 divided by 9 is 10. Let's go ahead and let's do these 4. Same thing applies. You'll solve it while the video is paused, and then come back and see how you did. You may pause the video now. Welcome back. Let's see how you did. 128 divided 0.9 divided by 12. I changed that to 120 divided by 12. Gave me 10. Another way could have been 130 divided by 10, which would have given me 13. 576.4 divided by 62. I bring this down to a 60. I need something that 6 will go into. 6 goes into 6, so I rounded that up to 600. 600 divided by 60 is 10. All right, 1547 divided by 7. My options were to drop this all the way down to 14, because 14 divided by 7 is 2. Or I could raise this up to 16 and then change this here to an 8, because I want something that 8 goes into evenly, or something that goes into 16 evenly, which is 8. Either way would give me $2. And over here, I'm going to round this up to 20. So 2 needs, we take 2, 4, 6. There's my 6. So I rounded that up to 60. 60 divided by 20 is 3. Today on the homework, you're going to solve all these problems. You should do it on this paper first, both sides. And then you have a couple options. You could write your name on the line and on the top here, scan it or take a picture, email it to me at mireland@psychchipschool.net or text it to me at 989-750-1640, or take your paper and plug the answers into the attached Google form within the Google Classroom. Those are the best ways currently to get these to me versus attempting to return them to the school. If you're stuck, please reach out to me at mireland@psychchipschool.net for further assistance. Best time to join us in class is during math. That way you can join with your peers to make meaning of the content. Hope you all have a minogijigad. Minwa, bamapi.